Single most important stat on the planet, alarm as atmospheric CO2 soars to legit scary record high. We should no longer measure our wealth and success in the graph that shows economic growth, but in the curve that shows the emissions of greenhouse gases.
Here's a summary of the article.
In another alarming signal that the international community is failing to take the kind of ambitious action necessary to avert global climate catastrophe, NOAA released new data Tuesday showing that atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, which environmentalist Bill McKibben described as the single most important stat on the planet, reached a record high in the month of May. The measurement is the highest seasonal peak recorded in 61 years of observations on top of Hawaii's largest volcano and the seventh consecutive year of steep global increases in concentrations of carbon dioxide, NOAA said in a statement on Tuesday. The only thing that we need to look at is the emission curve. And I'm sorry, but it's still rising. That curve is the only thing we should look at, Greta Thunberg. According to NOAA's measurements, which were taken at the Mauna Loa Atmospheric Baseline Observatory in Hawaii, carbon dioxide levels peaked at an average of 414.7 ppm in May. As The Guardian reported, scientists have warned for more than a decade that concentrations of more than 450 ppm risk triggering extreme weather events and temperature rises as high as 2 degrees Celsius, beyond which the effects of global heating are likely to become catastrophic and irreversible. Single most important stat on the planet, CO2 rose 3.5 parts per million last year, second highest annual rise on record. As Common Dreams reported last month, when levels at Mauna Loa briefly hit 415 ppm, the occurrence was described as otherworldly for humanity and something not experienced by the planet in over 3 million years. Climate scientist Peter Gleick noted that the last time humans experienced levels this high was never. Human didn't exist. In her foreword to 350.org, campaigner Daniel Hunter's newly published Climate Resistance Handbook, Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old Swedish activist who helped inspire the worldwide surge in youth climate mobilizations, argued that the success or failure of the global climate movement will be determined by one measure, the emission curve.
This post received a score of 53,852, with an upvote ratio of 84%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Returning the revenue as an equitable dividend, in fact, and allows for a higher carbon price which, because enacting a border tax would protect domestic businesses from foreign producers not saddled with similar pollution taxes, and also, to enact their own. That failing to mitigate climate change will cost us 10% of GDP over 50 years. In contrast, carbon taxes may actually boost GDP, if the revenue is the which taxing carbon and which in poor countries, in the first place. The U.S., according to most of the $5.2 trillion in subsidies for fossil fuels come from not taxing carbon as we should. There is general agreement among economists on carbon taxes whether you consider, or it is literally Econ 101, the idea.
Damn son. This is an interesting read and I haven't even read half the links. Bravo fellow Redditor. It baffles me that people are still in denial about climate change and, more importantly, that somehow our existence somehow doesn't affect the planet. I mean, really?
Some people argue that the Earth is not a sphere and the stars are painted on the ceiling.
Like the sparkles in the popcorn ceilings of the 70s.
ANNND, that's asbestos. One of the many types of forbidden cotton candy.
Legit scary. WTF is that for a report?
As the amount of carbon dioxide increases, people's decision-making abilities become impaired. That is highlighted in this report with the use of the term legit scary as opposed to totally whack.
Is CO2 levels whack?
The way that he always drives a Hummer. Whack.
But me, I'm tight as fuck.
The people who can make change on a massive scale are too old to care. It won't affect them, so being in denial doesn't matter.
That's what's legit scary.
Well said. You should write headlines for a living.
Most worrying thing is that even if we can get our collective asses in gear and stop all greenhouse emission, the temperature will keep increasing for an extra 50 to 100 years before stabilizing due to climate lag.
Just gotta survive for 3 to 4 generations.
Well, no, the climate is going to stabilize at a temperature which nothing on Earth is evolved to deal with. The last time this happened, during the end Permian extinction event, it occurred over a few thousand years so that a fraction of existing life was able to adapt and come down to the present day. We've setting a similar event off in a little over a century, this time, and we've already decimated most life on Earth, further reducing its ability to adapt. 3 or 4 generations down the line, humanity will be extinct.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.